Well, hello. Welcome back to Care to Talk. I am Caroline, your host, aka Care Bear, aka Care, and I'm so glad that you took time aside to be with me today. So, I wanted to finish off season 1. Yes, I can't believe it. We're almost done season 1. The same way that I started season 1. And I started season 1, if you remember, on my own. It was just me, my laptop, my camera, and you. And I wanted to continue in that vein just to finish off. I feel like we had so many amazing guests and so many amazing conversations, but I wanted to finish off and really reflect on the things that stuck out to me and hopefully that stuck out to you as well before we jump into season 2. So welcome. We have a lot to get through. I also kind of wanted this episode to be similar to the episodes that you've been used to watching. So we're going to start out, as we always do, with our mug session. I have one of my favorite mugs ever. Like I recently got it this year and I really wanted to show it off to you guys. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have probably seen it. I put it in my stories because I was like so proud of it and I was so grateful that I had this new mug. And so I can't wait to share it with you. It is like, I think it's like a cloud mug or something they call it, but it literally looks like it's sitting on a cloud. It's super cute and I love it so much. My cousin actually introduced me to this. It's on Amazon. I can link it in the description box. But look at it. It literally looks like a cloud. It's so fat and it's like grabbable. Oh my gosh. And I love the color. It comes in like a darker kind of taupe kind of color as well. It has a little saucer for it. This is amazing. The only thing about this is that I wish it was a little bit bigger. I wish it was bigger so that I can fit more tea in it. But this is literally my favorite mug of all time in this season right now. So yeah, that is the mug of the day. And I chose it because it's cute. I chose it because y'all haven't seen it before. And I chose it because it's so calming to look at. It literally looks like a cloud. And I just love it. It's just so cute. So cute. Anywho, that is the mug of the day. I would love to see your mugs. Maybe I'll like put something out on social media and like ask you guys like what's your favorite mug, take a picture and send it to my DMs or something so that we can see what you guys have. I know some of you guys are tea heads, coffee heads. Which one are you? Let me know in the comments if you can. But yeah, let's get into the episode. The other thing I love to do, as you guys know, is talk about a random fact of the day. I found a fact that kind of resonates mostly with like who I am and how I was created, but hopefully some of you guys can resonate with this one as well. So the fact of the day is that approximately 10% of people in the world are left-handed. Yeah, we're left-handed. I'm left-handed. I don't know if y'all knew. Whenever I'm somewhere and I'm writing or like doing something active and I'm using my left hand, people are like, you're left-handed? Like they literally stop me in my tracks and they're like, you're left-handed? And yes, I absolutely am left-handed. I am proud of it. Some people think it's like a shame and I'm like, no, it's not a shame. It is literally the best thing ever. We are the most creative people in the world. We think outside the box. I feel like people who are right-handed obviously think outside the box too, but I don't know, there's just something about the left-handed people that I just feel is different from everybody else. We're perseverant because people are bullying us all the time. But yes, I'm left-handed. A lot of people in the world are. I'll kind of name some famous people in the world who y'all probably know who are also left-handed that you might not have known. Oprah Winfrey, Barack Obama, Sarah Jessica Parker. Her style is on fleek and I feel like the left-handedness of her inspires her to be so amazing at fashion. Who else is there? There's Tom Cruise, great actor. There is Justin Bieber, great singer. Bill Clinton, another president. Guys. Will Ferrell, everybody's favorite elf. All the things. Okay, so yes, basically what I'm saying is left-handed people are dope. Left-handed people are very creative. Left-handed people just have something, the secret sauce that like the right-handed people do not have. Don't hate on us. But yes, I just thought it would be fun to share that fun fact. I hope you enjoyed it. And if there are any fun facts that you guys come across, please share them with me because I would love to share them here in future episodes. So the reason why we're here, first of all, I'm going to ask the famous question that I ask all of our guests when they come here. And I'm asking it to myself, Caroline, care to talk about the loss that comes with losing a loved one? Reflection. And And yes, I care to talk about it. That is why we are here. So thank you for being here. Let's dig into it. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go from episode 2 through 7, so that we can kind of just walk through the key things that were discussed throughout. I'm going to just kind of skim over some notes that I took. So I rewatched basically every episode, and then I'm going to extract some of my thoughts, some of the cool things that my guests have said, rehash some things. Hopefully this helps those who might not have watched the episodes yet. Please do, because they're really cool. And people who really enjoyed the episodes, who kind of want to just mull over some cool discoveries, lessons, things that we've learned together with me right now. So let's just do it. Episode 2 with Jessica Bruce. Amazing, phenomenal woman of God. I've known her for a very long time. I want to say since I was like 13. We went to the same church back in the day. And she's been like just such a great friend, family friend, confidant. In the last couple of years, we've gotten to have really cool conversations about our losses. As she lost her father, I lost my mother. But we would just like buck up in really random places in Toronto or wherever. We would end up having like really short but deep conversations about our loss. And it was just like a full circle moment for her to come here and to share her heart on her journey. And so, yeah, let's kind of walk through episode 2 and the cool things that were mentioned in that conversation. The first thing that she said is that grief isn't always immediate. For Jessica, it took her 2 years to actually start grieving because she avoided it in the first 2 years. She had a lot going on. She was a mother. She was a business owner. She was a homeowner transitioning into that and stuff. So there was just so much going on. And she was like, I cannot deal with this extra thing right now. I need to deal with what's in front of me. It reminded me of the fact that I didn't really push my grief experience away necessarily. I really did sit in it and I sat in my feelings. But one thing that I did kind of push off or didn't really think I needed to address, which I addressed probably like 12 years post losing my mom, was therapy. So like for her, she pushed the grief away. For me, I pushed the help away. I pushed the therapy away. And it took me a very long time to, first of all, see that it was valuable, to accept that it was necessary, and to like accept that it was like the Christian thing to do. Because like in the church culture, it was like that was not something that was pushed. Like go find a counselor to walk through your problems. It was more like pray about your problems and God will help you. And yeah, I feel like God and therapy definitely work hand in hand. We know that now. But yeah, I really resonated with what she said in the sense of pushing certain aspects of your recovery journey off to the side because you feel like it's not as important right now. It just reminded me that we are all very different people who grieve very differently. There is no manual or right way to do it. I think the important thing is that we just get to the healing part, is that we just get to the place where we are open enough, vulnerable enough, and willing enough to not sit where we are in our sadness or in our grief, but to find help, however that looks, or to face the sadness or to face the difficult thing in the midst of your grief. So yeah, I think it was just really interesting. It just kind of reminded me that the way that I did it is not wrong. The way that she did it is not wrong. We are here today as a testament of God's goodness in making it through. And we had to take a step at some point. And sometimes the step just took a lot longer to take. And that's okay. It just made me feel a little bit more validated in that at the end of the day, we sought the help. At the end of the day, we faced the grief. And yeah, there's no really wrong way to do that. So let's get to the next point. I love that Jessica said that grief is a milestone. And then she used the example of her wedding. She's saying as much as we allow ourselves to experience the emotions of happiness as we get married or have children or get a new home, the happy things that happen in life, we should also leave room to experience the sad emotions. So she was talking about how like that was her first time losing her father, you know, and in that we experience sadness. That is a milestone that we should hold near and dear to us, that we should feel necessary to unpack, that we should feel necessary to encounter. I think that was really beautiful. I agree with that 100%. For me, it was my first time losing my mother. That was a milestone. I will never experience that particular thing again. It was okay for me, I realized that it was okay for me to sit in my sadness because that's a part of the life experience, the human life experience. And so I thought that was really, really beautiful. Another thing was the journey of our emotions through grief, or the journey of grief itself. So we were talking about both of us questioning God, like, God, how could you allow this to happen? And then journeying through our grief, however long that took for myself or for Jessica, the resolve was, Lord, how could you love me so well through this? How could you love me so well through this loss? How could you be so patient? How could you be so present? How could you be so comforting and satisfying in a season of darkness and drought for me? Thank you for holding me together. Thank you for picking up the broken pieces of me and walking through it with me, for saying, hey, I've got you. I'll hold your hand and we will get through this. I was really, really grateful for that. And then she also reminded me of the scripture that the Lord is near to the brokenhearted. And that scripture definitely for me hit when she said it in that moment, but also during my grief journey as well. It was a scripture that people reminded me of a few times, and it really made me feel like, okay, like the Lord is really in this for the long haul with me. Like, I don't really have to walk this alone. I might tell myself I'm walking through this alone, especially in the beginning stages. I definitely did that, but like, no, the Lord is near. He's looking for that broken and contrite heart to save. Jessica, if you're watching this, I'm super, super grateful that you decided to come on the couch and sit with me and really talk through these things. I really value you. I said it in the podcast itself, that like when I talk to you, I feel heard. I feel like you really hear me out and that you really desire to know my heart when it comes to these things. And I just really appreciate you and love you. And thank you so much for being there and for being here and for sharing your story and being vulnerable. All right, episode 3 with Malika. Malika is a phenomenal, creative woman of God as well, mother, amazing person. I've known her, I want to say, for 10 plus years, maybe 7 plus years, something around there. We had mutual friends in the church and have done like really cool things. So yeah, loved her presence on the podcast. And she came in hot. The first thing that she said that like hit my soul was during the random moment. So I share the random facts moments. I was talking about Mike the chicken. Mike the chicken is a chicken whose head got cut off, and he still lived 18 minutes post his head being cut off. And apparently that's like a record time. So that's like the longest time a chicken has ever lived with its head cut off. Don't ask me how or why I found this random fact to share, but I did. And she had a word in that. She found an immediate word in that. And she was like, you can lose your mind in your head and God will still keep certain things intact so that you can continue living. And I was like, wow, okay, that's amazing. And so I really love that she said that. And it's so true. We can feel like discombobulated, broken, torn down, defeated. But I think that God has a way. If you have a relationship with him, he has a way to keep your mind intact so that you can make it through anything, but with his help, with his guidance, with his presence. So I thought that was really cool that she said that. Another thing that she said that was amazing was that she realized that grief was more than just a lesson or a punishment that God was trying to teach her so that she could be the champion of mother who lose their child to stillbirth or to miscarriage. And I thought that was really, really interesting, because I think a lot of us, we really harp on the turn your pain into purpose. And I think that's beautiful. It's literally what I'm doing right now. I don't think it's something that's wrong, but that's not the only purpose to my pain. The purpose to my pain is not to now turn around and make a business and be popular or famous or anything like that. She brought about the fact that bad things can happen to all of us. And it just so happened to happen to her. And that this was a way for God to allow something unfortunate to happen in order to wake her up. It was she called it her return to Jesus moment. And it was an opportunity. It was an invitation, and she welcomed the invitation. And so I think it was really beautiful that she said that, because yes, the things that God allows us to go through is not just for us to now turn around and come up with something massive to help other people who also go through it. I think that's a part of it. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful part of it. But I think what God is most concerned about as he allows us to go through these things is our heart posture. Is our heart far from him, or is our heart drawing nigh to him amidst our situation? And in this case, loss drew Malika nearer to God. And that's all he wanted. I think that's all God wants is to be near to us, is to commune with us. And I think sometimes it takes harder situations for us to awaken to that fact that he wants us, that he wants our hearts, that he desires to be close to us. My mom even said it, and I said it in a post on Instagram. Sometimes God puts you through things to remind you that he is simply there. And then there's something that Kirk Franklin said at one of the concerts. I also shared this on Instagram. He was like, sometimes God puts you through things or allows you to fall so that you would land on him, the rock, or something like that. But it's true. I think God puts us through things not just so that we can be the champion of this new thing, so that we can walk other people through it, although that is a part of the purpose, but it's also to rearrange the priority of our hearts, to rearrange our appetites, and to set our focus back on him. Because he's literally the only one who can walk us through. He's literally the only person who can satisfy us in life. Period. So that was really eye-opening and a great reminder. Personally for me, hopefully for you too. She talked about art and creativity and using that as a means to make it through her grief, to cope through her grieving season. And she said that without God, because it was a difficult time with her and God during that season when she lost her child, and she would use art like painting, for example, to make it through her depression. But it was only when she tapped into her relationship with God in a deeper level, it was only when she understood that a relationship with God was the key to her wellness and her wholeness. It was only when she was serious, or became serious post-loss about her relationship with Jesus Christ, that things really changed for her. So yes, we can use art, creativity, painting, dancing, doing something fun for yourself to help you cope, but that will only last for so long. The real sustainer is Jesus. He is the one who will reveal to you through the Holy Spirit the mysteries that he wants us to know about life as we walk through hard things. We just need to yield to him. And I just love that she said that. I think that was really, really beautiful. So not using art and creativity as a means of resilience against depression is what she said. It was an act of resilience against depression. But she was saying, you can use that, but tap that with a relationship with Jesus and everything makes more sense. I love that. Last thing that she said, I asked her, what is the main lesson you learned throughout your loss and grieving journey? And she said, the people, and I quote, the people that leave us didn't die to kill us. And that took me out. It took me out because it's so true. I think that's something I personally battled with. After losing my mother we were super close. There is a temptation, unfortunately, and this is just a trigger warning. There is a temptation to feel as though life isn't worth living or being here isn't worth it when pretty much the most important person in your life is no longer there to live it with you. It's like, it feels like torture. So to end the torture, you have very bad thoughts about what happens next as it pertains to you. I've definitely had those thoughts and I've written about it, and hopefully we all will be let in on that soon. But it's a real feeling. But it was so comforting for her to even share that lesson because it's a real thing. So she said it's more painful to live every day now knowing that you won't be doing life with a person on earth again. But the resolve that we had together was that death doesn't equal death. Death equals more life. I thank God for that revelation. And I thank God for reminding her of that truth. That is something I, even in that conversation up to now, will always carry with me. It's just a great reminder that even though those that we love are taken away, it doesn't mean that that's our time too. So let's guard against the temptation to believe that their time up means our time up. It's not up to us. So yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you, Malika, for your wisdom and for your vulnerability. Episode 4 with Corey Wisdom. Corey is a great friend of mine, awesome mind, and he's another person who I had one-off conversations with about grief and loss. Really short conversations, but really effective conversations that I really, really loved. And so I had to have him on the couch as well. And I'm so grateful he came. He was one of the first men. So I'm grateful that I got a man to sit on the couch. And I hope to get some more. So if you know anyone, just tell them to come my way. But the first thing that stuck out to me, the first lesson that stuck out to me with Corey, so I asked Corey a question about, does grief have a timeline? Like, is there a timeline to your grief? And he responded with a question, and he was like, is your grief journey getting better, or are you just learning to deal with it better? I thought that was a really good question that he asked, because some people believe that with time alone, you can heal. And I think time is the gift as we walk through grief. We need time to get through it, but it's not the mechanism by which we are able to walk through our grief in an effective and a successful way. And so I love that he asked that question. He said it's like working out. Time goes by, yes, but it is your tolerance, it is your willingness to keep going to the gym, to keep working out, to keep picking up the weights in that time that makes the tolerance for working out, for getting stronger, gradual and possible. And for it to show results, it requires something of us. So yeah, I think like working out, the grief journey can be similar in the sense that we're learning to deal with it better as we face the necessary tests, tests. I'm going to say tests to get through it. So I thought it was really cool. One thing I really appreciate about my conversation with Corey is the fact that we touched on legacy a lot. He was just talking about the weight that he carried, or that his family had to now carry, since the man of the home, the household, was now gone. We talked about like legacy, things in us that we carry from our parents who we have lost, especially losing the parent of the same sex, for me and my mother, for him his father, and like how knowing that we carry aspects of them within us can give context to the types of lives that we should now live or aspire to live, and the types of ways that we should aspire to show up in the world for people, etc. So it was really good. It was really challenging, and like made me even think about, okay, legacy wise, how can I carry on the legacy of my mother in a way that she would be proud, in a way that others connected to me would be proud? What did she carry that was so effective in the earth that I can not carry because we're different people, but exude or in a way like highlight? I don't know what the word is, but like, what can I do as Caroline that can shine a light on the wonderful ways that my mother nicely showed up in the world? What can I do to carry that on? I thought it was beautiful. We talked about the concept of like our children not having a particular grandparent, and the fact that that was really sad for us to think about. It is really sad to know that like when I have a child, that child will not know the wonderful grandmother that they have. In his case, the wonderful grandfather that they could have had. But then I encouraged Corey and said like, but they get to still experience aspects of your father through you, and they get to experience aspects of my mother through myself. And I don't think as the child of that person we necessarily think of that, because we are our own person, but I think grief kind of highlights that, or loss kind of highlights that for us, in the sense that, oh wow, I get to show up as this person's daughter or son. What does that mean for me, and how will I show up? So I thought that was really beautiful. We talked about being given the gift of perspective. Community and family is so much more of a priority now. Moments are so much more of a priority now, or something that we really hold close to us and like value so much more because of the reality of our loss. Time is precious. The time that we spend with the people that we love is super, super precious. Both of us kind of mentioned that we wouldn't really understand the full gravity of that like that life is precious and that life is fragile had we not lost someone. So it is kind of, in a way, a gift, in the sense that now our eyes are wide open, and we can now live from that perspective of, wow, let me cherish this. Let me cherish this moment right now. Last thing we talked about is being hyper alert. Corey was saying that there are times where he felt sick or weaker or whatever, went to the washroom, felt a ways, and thought immediately, oh no, I'm going to leave this world the exact same way my father did. And I can't tell you how many times I have gone through the exact same thing where I felt weak, or I just felt something in my body and I was like, oh no, I remember my mother telling me that she felt this way at this time. I could possibly have cancer now. That is a lie of the enemy that is trying to destroy you. It's a lie of the enemy that's trying to take you out. And so I'm sure there's a term for that, but I just wanted to remind everyone that, like, that is not a thought of God. That is not a thought that comes from God. I think those are wonderful opportunities when you feel ways to check in. It's a wonderful opportunity to go to the doctor and check about yourself, but like, don't automatically assume that that's also your story. Pray about it, bind it, and tell that spirit of fear to go. Tell it to go, because it doesn't belong here. And we talked about that also, that whole thing that I just talked about being a trauma response, and it really is. And so I think that's also something that you can work through in therapy as well. All right, 2 more episodes to go. Episode 5 with Laura Apoku. Laura, another powerhouse, another giant in the community as it pertains to the topic of grief and loss. She is phenomenal. I met her through Instagram. A friend suggested that I reach out to her since I was starting the podcast, and she thankfully said yes. So thank you, Laura, for your yes. I'm so grateful, and I've learned so much from you in our episode together. The first thing that I learned from Laura, that I've had conversations with other people about after the episode aired, was the whole concept and quote of, after someone loses someone, the response from the community, it's a beautiful response too, but the response from the community is, if you need anything, let me know. Right? We've all been there. I've been there. I'm sure you've been there. Laura's been there. Everybody's been there. And we believe that response to say, if you need anything, I'll be there for you, we think that's like the best thing ever. We think like we are the best friend. We got it. Like, we know exactly how to support. And although that is a beautiful response and a beautiful thing to do, the people who have lost have no idea what they need. What they need is for the person that passed away to come back immediately. But obviously that's not the reality. So it's just so interesting that she brought that up, because I actually never thought about that. I thought that we were doing the person who lost a favor by saying, if you need anything, I'm there. I'll bring you food. I'll bring you this. I'll bring you that. But sometimes they don't know what they want to eat. Sometimes they don't want to eat at all. Sometimes they don't know that they need someone to wash their sheets because they can't get out of bed. Like, things like that. It's like, we need to be more aware of the things that they might need and just provide it, or give them options for the things that they might need, as opposed to making them have to now think about what they need. It's a lot to conceptualize the fact that someone is gone forever. To think anything else is exhausting. And so that was just a really, really good reminder. So one of her examples is like, instead of saying, do you need anything? Are you hungry? What do you want to eat? It's like, I'm going to get Chinese. Do you like that? Or would you rather pizza? Giving them an opportunity to make a quick decision without having to sit with making a decision. It just takes the weight off. And it's a simple thing. It seems really small, but I'm sure, even as someone who's been on that end of like loss, it's appreciated, because thank you for caring for me, and thank you for also taking the load off of me having to make a decision in the hardest season of my life, So I thought it was beautiful. Leaning too hard on either side of faith versus emotion. This is something I talk about a lot, and I was so grateful to have this conversation with Laura on the podcast. She says, like, faith says, count it all joy throughout your trials. And remember, we were like, I'm counting. I love that. That's like my favorite part of the episode. Faith says, count it all joy through your trials. And emotion says that there's no hope at all. right? And so it's important to find the middle ground. Jesus felt emotions. He prayed to the Lord saying, God, please take this away from me. His sweat became like blood on his body. He was so distressed and so stressed out in what he had to do on the cross before he did it. And then faith in Jesus to walk through our grief is necessary as well, especially when we're tempted to give up and give in, right? But we can't negate our emotions. I love that. I love that she said we can't stay in this place of faith and pretend like nothing's going on and God's got it and be in, she said, head in the clouds. But then we also can't wallow in despair forever and stay in this drought and this valley forever, because that will be self-deprecating. So there's a middle ground that we need to find. There's a middle ground that we need to find. I think it reminded me of Hebrews 4:15, for we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet he did not sin. So I think that scripture just kind of highlights the humanity of God, and the fact that as people, children who rely on God, we are not relying on someone who is ignorant to the difficult things that encounter us in life. He went through the most difficult thing ever, and he is God. He is Jesus. He made it through. He conquered death, hell, and the grave. But he also had emotions before he had to do that. And I think it's just a great reminder that we can feel too, but that we can also trust in a God who has overcome everything, literally everything. The last thing that she said that I loved was she didn't know how capable she was until her father trusted her to help him as he was declining. She started getting really emotional at that point, and I just thought it was really amazing that even in that hard time, her father was used as a vehicle to encourage her. So I think that just reminded me to find the little nuggets in our despair and in our hurt and in our pain that can uplift us, those nuggets that can uplift us. All right, last episode 6 and 7 with Adriana Adai, my good friend, whom I love. Our conversations, as I said in the podcast, are always so great, and there's just so much that we can cover. We just talk about everything, and it's lovely to have a friend that is so wise and so just full of information. Like, she's just amazing. It's so nice to have someone like that in my life who actually also understands what it feels like to lose a parent. And I just loved our conversation so much. So I'm glad that y'all got to see that interaction with us together in the podcast. Okay, so the first thing that she said that really stuck out to me in this episode was, once grief becomes a part of your life, it changes you forever, which we know. It's something you live with and not in. That was gold, because it's true. Living in grief is very different from living with grief. It's like living in the world as opposed to of it. Living in grief is constantly in wallowing season, constantly defeated, constantly sad, constantly hopeless. Living with grief is, okay, it's this heavy backpack I have to carry everywhere, but as I walk with it every day, sit down, get up, squat with it, do everything I gotta do throughout the day with this heavy bag on my back, I'm gaining strength without even knowing. Every moment I'm gaining strength in having to carry this weight with me, because I'm learning how to carry it smarter. I'm learning how to carry it with time better. It's kind of like what I said in Corey's episode. So yeah, it's interesting. It's important, friends, those who are grieving, to live with it but not in it. Very, very, very different. Two different things. Another thing we talked about during our conversation was that, like, the Lord gave Adriana's father, before he passed from a brain aneurysm, a little bit of a grace period. And she was just talking about, like, the grace of God to even avail time in between him having an aneurysm and passing. She's like, we don't know what could have happened in that time. He could have repented. He could have renewed his relationship with God. He could have had an opportunity to surrender to God, right? And she's just talking about the grace and patience and the merciful nature of God. God is very intentional. And the reason why he could have left that time period open is because he loved her father. And she was in a season where it was difficult to have a loving relationship with her father, based off of their own tensions. But the fact that she saw through this whole situation and this whole grace period throughout his sickness, she noticed that the Lord loved her father enough to give him a grace period. And she was like, if the Lord can love my father in that way, how much more I can love my father, period. I thought that was really beautiful. And I thought that was a really mature takeaway that Adriana had. And it just reminds me to just have grace for the people in my life as well. Really, really important to have grace for others. None of us are perfect. We all have flaws. One thing she said as well, she's like, people can really die. And that is like the realest thing I have ever heard. It's so true. I follow Kev on Stage. I don't know if you guys know him. But that's something he kind of said in his own way as well. At one point, he's like, his brother passed away. And he was like, my brother really died and left me. And that's how I felt. I was like, my mom really died and left me here in this ghetto world. Like, what? And she was like, people can really die. And I was like, yeah, that's insane. It's insane. Death is so final. And it's so unexpected sometimes. And so, yeah, that was just a quote I just put out there because I just thought it was really interesting. It's true. And if we can live our life with that, like not ruminating on the fact that people can die, but just remembering that life is so fragile and at any moment people can die, I think we have a lot more grace for people. I think we have a lot more just clear conscience, healthy conscience as we live our lives. We talked about guilt and grief and the fact that sometimes we ourselves or the people in our lives expect us to make it through our grieving season in a particular time frame. She compared it to like a breakup, and it's like you break up with someone and it's like you're talking about it all the time, right? Oh my gosh, you're talking to your friend, you're debriefing all the things that happened. And then you get to a point where like after a few weeks to a month, it's like you're in a conversation with your friend. Maybe I shouldn't bring this breakup up again. Maybe my friend's annoyed to hear about it all the time. But she was equating that to loss. And she was saying that like we have the tendency as those who have lost to talk about it a lot. I sometimes even feel recording this podcast, I'm like, am I talking about grief too much? Oh, am I becoming the grief girl? And she's just reminding us like the importance of having the right community. We need a community that is willing to bear our burdens with us. There's no point in our life that we should ever feel that we can't share our burdens with others. Of course, we can have like, you know, a meter where maybe in a season it can be a bit much. But there should be always an accountability or a community that we can turn to flesh out our feelings. Therapy is also a great avenue for that. Taking it to God in prayer is a great avenue for that as well. But we as grievers tend to feel like we're inconveniencing others for feeling what we feel. And I think the point of that part of the conversation was just to remind our fellow friends and grievers that it's not something to be guilty about, to feel guilty about. Grief is not something to feel guilty about. Feel it fully. Feel it for as long as you need to. And have community that's healthy enough to lean on when you need to lean on them. Another thing she talked about was that death taught her that everyone takes advantage of the things and people who are accessible to them, or that are accessible to them. She said, I thought I could do life without you. I did not realize the full value of having you in my life. And that was really good. Even those we lose, we can love them so much, but while they're here, we don't necessarily value them fully. It's kind of like you don't know what you got until it's gone. You know that saying? Similar to that, where it's like, wow, I'm seriously never going to be able to do life with this person again. Then you think back to times where you didn't appreciate them or you were annoyed with them, and it just doesn't even, the comparison, it doesn't even, all that stuff doesn't even matter anymore. Like all the, you have moments of frustration with that person. You have moments where you didn't even want them in your life. You're being petty about something. And then now that they're gone, you're just like, wow, like none of that even mattered. And this is something that kind of weaved in all of the conversations. I mentioned a lot throughout the podcasts is like, in a beautiful way, none of this matters. I follow someone on Instagram that said that on their Twitter, and they posted it on Instagram. And it was like, in a beautiful way, all of this does not matter. It's just like Ecclesiastes. It's like, all of this is vanity. All of it. But while we're here, enjoy life. It does say that in the scripture as well. All of this is vanity, but don't throw the whole life away. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Moderation. But yeah, taking advantage of the people in our lives and the things in our lives. Loss sometimes, even if it's not death, loss in general can just kind of open our eyes to our proclivities and our tendency to not value things that are really important to us. Yeah. Anyway, that quote was amazing. Just amazing. Last thing that she said was just like in the latter half of our conversation, she was just talking about the importance of taking care of yourself. Take a day from work if you feel really low because of your loss. Be open with someone that you trust. Have an open, as we were saying about community earlier, have an open dialogue with someone who you trust fully with your heart. As you're walking through a really hard season, get help when you need it. Professional help. Invest in it. Invest in it. Invest in it. And then overarching over all of the things, cling on to Jesus. He is a real one. I speak that from my own experience. Be curious about Jesus. Ask him questions about what it is that you're going through, and purpose in your heart to build your faith, if that makes sense. Purpose in your heart to live a life that promotes seeking faith. Like, God, build my faith in this predicament. Build my faith in this moment. Build my faith in this difficulty. Build my faith in this tragedy. Build my hope in this tragedy. Show me that you're real. Pray the real prayers. I think that was a great place for us to end. She was just talking about like value the things that really matter and take care of yourself in the process of your loss, because it's not an easy thing. As I said earlier on, we all are going through it for the first time. You could have lost 5 people in your life so far, but every loss is a loss that you've experienced for the first time. Does that make sense? Because one time it can be a family member, a mom. The next time it could be a sibling. The next time it could be an aunt. The next time it could be a colleague. You're losing different people for the first time. And then the fact that it is that person is a very unique person, because we're all unique individuals in our own ways. Even if it's 2 friends, 2 separate losses, 2 times you've experienced that loss for the first time. You know? And so yeah, just take it easy on yourself. Take it easy on yourself. That's it from the episodes. I hope that you enjoyed kind of breaking it down with me, with my computer, my notes and stuff. Thank you for hanging with me and just thinking with me and reasoning with me. I hope and pray that these episodes so far have been a blessing to your life. I hope that you feel like there are other people out there who know how you feel, or who can empathize with how you feel regarding your loss. I hope that you find hope in these episodes. I hope that you find faith in these episodes. I hope that you realize that it's okay to be vulnerable about things like these. And yeah, this season 1 has been really fun. This has literally been a step of faith to even have these episodes, because I think at one point grief was something I didn't really want to be open with, but now I'm like becoming more and more comfortable with just speaking about it, because I'm understanding and realizing that literally we're not talking about it enough. If these episodes showed me anything, proved anything, it was that we are not talking about this enough, and it is so necessary to be talking about this more. People are literally getting healed through these conversations just by the fact that they don't feel alone. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. I hope that you guys feel heard in these episodes. I hope that you guys feel seen. And yeah, I'm learning in this journey just as much as you are. So thank you for your grace as I even walk through this myself. We're going to continue with grief talks in season 2, and then see where we go from there. After season 2, we might kind of change the topics in the future. We're going to be taking a little bit of a break just so that I can edit and shoot for the next season. So it's going to be probably sometime in the holiday season or New Year. But yeah, thank you guys so much for your grace, and take care of yourselves. I am praying for you guys, and we will talk very soon. Thank you so much. Bye.